Andy, so it was another moment in the Pounder family household. The second son packs the U-Haul and drives away, off to embark on his new life, Andy. Pretty big milestone.
Yeah.
His first real job, and so he's traveling to there. He's going heading back to Florida, to Jacksonville. So that's good on him. But yeah, he had a U-Haul with him, Andy. Yeah, I remember when I left for my first job in the Army, driving out to Fort Huachuca. It was just me and my Jeep Cherokee filled up with my clothes. That's all I had. But he's got a U-Haul.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, one, it's a big deal. Congratulations to all involved on second son going out and starting life. It's a big deal. I mean, I remember how exciting it was, as you and I had the chance to graduate and move on, and it's huge. But yeah, I was similar. My wife and I, as you may recall, I got married pretty quickly, skipped my graduation because I had to report for duty within days. So my wife and I packed up our collective lives in the back of a two-door Chevy Blazer and headed west. And we lived in cardboard furniture for about 6 months because that's all we had.
yeah, that's what it is, right? I mean, I moved into like the betterment of a hotel room, so I didn't have to necessarily buy a whole lot of furniture, but you slowly accumulate things. My son had so much junk. I was like, can it all fit in your new
Yeah,
apartment? I guess it did. So all good on him. So how are things at the Jabor household, Andy?
things are good, Dave. We're enjoying our summer. We got a lot going on. We're starting to look to, the next steps for everybody here in the next few weeks, months, and so it's sort of just soaking in and appreciating the time we have. It's really an amazing privilege of my both my boys home for a few months and just enjoying time with them. We were in the gym yesterday, sweating in the heat and grunting and throwing weights around, and it was just really fun to get a chance just to laugh with them and talk with them, and you definitely don't want to take that for granted. And when you know that the window to keep doing that is kind of limited.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably get some good stories out of it too, right, Andy? I mean,
Oh
so
yeah.
or some good conversations as you're doing that. So I'm sure you get some good stuff there. Anything pop up while any of those stories kind of pop up, Andy?
So Dave, not in the gym, although yesterday had a great Gen X moment, I think, as I think there's been some conversation going on online with younger folks. My youngest is 19, and very into games and online activity, and so we were talking late yesterday, and he's like I got some Street Fighter intel that's big, and I was like, what do you got? Like, I know there's a new Street Fighter game coming out. I love Street Fighter as a kid. My high school friends and I used to get together at my place and have tournament battles and just love it. Love the game. Still love the game. So he's telling me, he's like, this is huge. It's gonna blow your mind. I was like, bring it on. What do you got for me? And he's like, okay, so they're bringing Bison back to the game, but Bison isn't Bison. Bison is Vega. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, right? Let me take you back to some Street Fighter lore. A lot of us grew up with the Street Fighter video game, right? Street Fighter 2 was huge with Blanca, Vega, Dhalsim, Zangief, all these guys. So when that game was coming out in the US, the character in the US that we know as Balrog, the big boxer, was originally named M. Bison. But as Mike Tyson at that time was dominating the boxing scene, there was some kind of trademark issue or something, so they couldn't release the game with that guy being Bison. So they changed the characters' names around. So uh, the boxer became Balrog, another character became Vega, and Bison, who we all know today as Bison, was originally uh, Balrog, or I'm sorry, was originally Vega. Getting my names mixed up. So that's how we grew up in the U.S. here for the last 30 years with those naming conventions. Well, I guess the new game was previewed online with the old names, and so to young Gen Zers, Gen Alphas, I guess this historic background, the Street Fighter lore, was mind-blowing information and new intel that was leaving kids with eyes wide open, trying to realize this history of Street Fighter. I was like, hey man, Gen X, we knew this. Like this was old information, old intel from back in the day. So we laughed a good chuckle about it. it was fun to see him get excited about it. I still love Street Fighter. I think it's a great game. You can see the cheesy movies. You can go back and watch Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which inspired largely the Street Fighter sort of quirkiness. So anyway, a little early story, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, taking me back on, put me on the, pulling little baby grandson Jabor on the knee, and you can give him that Street Fighter stuff there. I was not a big Street Fighter person. I wasn't into the fighting games as much. I just never got into that. But I mean, I can certainly appreciate it. The names are familiar. Very very cool backstory there, Andy. So very very good start to our, or I guess reminiscent back to our Gen X days and our early video game type of things. It's just amazing how far some of these things have come,
Yeah,
and then some of those video games are still carrying on long term. So it's kind of like our Pac-Man discussion from the other day. So.
right.
All right, Andy, let's get into our 3x7s. We've got some other things at the back end too we'll get into. So I'm going to start here with the first topic, Andy. Let's go into we continue our music discussion from last on Monday. We were talking about Pearl Jam and the new album that they had, and just kind of how it is in the background. Nothing exciting, but also just easy going, kind of standard Pearl Jam stuff. One of our, great loyal listeners is always commenting on the threads. He's always out there. Our friend from Germany, was commenting on your post, Andy, and he mentioned about country music. And this does take me back many years. I was a big, big country music fan. I remember getting my for Christmas one year, getting the Garth Brooks albums. You remember he struck it big with Rope in the Wind. He had all of these great albums. I remember getting a couple of them and just listening in the basement of the
Yeah,
house, on repeat, just Garth Brooks over and over. And then that became, went into George Strait, Alan Jackson. I went with a lot of Brooks and Dunn, some of these other great bands. I kind of started losing country music in, when Kenny Chesney came in, and he had some pretty popular. You think my track? I think, or what it was, a Tractor Sexy, um, that kind of stuff. I started losing out on it and transitioned more towards like the rock again, back into pop music. And of course, I'm a big Swiftie now, so I've come a long way in my music experience. Where were you ever a country music person?
So I wouldn't say I was a country music person. I briefly listened to country music, Dave. It's another story here, but so I grew up with rock and metal, some rap and pop, and I really enjoyed that. Couldn't get into country. Didn't when Garth Brooks came out, didn't tickle me in any way. Didn't get into country music in any way. But I had a slight problem with the weight of my foot, and as I would get behind the wheel of a car, my heavy right foot would consistently find me driving in speeds beyond what the Fairfax County Police appreciated at the time, and racking up a successive amount of tickets pretty quickly, much to my mother's chagrin, if I think. So after getting kicked off one insurance and still not quite getting my speed under control, it got to the point where like I had to slow down because I had to slow down, and to sort of force myself in. Because Dave, you recall, I was very excited and about my light blue 1991 Pontiac Firebird purchase. I'd have that car, the T-tops off, and the music blasting. I wanted to go as fast as possible, but I had to find a way to temper my speed. And so I started listening to country music because I hated it. And so listening to it, like it sort of sucked the life out of me and made me drive slower because I could not get inspired. It was like a counter to the sun on my head, driving down the highway. The problem was after doing that for a few weeks, I started finding myself loving like Dwight Yoakam and a
Oh
few
yeah.
other country stars, right? So as I was using it to control my speed, once I got into it, I started to enjoy it. Then the whole problem started again, and then I was like, I'm singing along with Dwight racing down the street, and I was like, oh crap! Not only now am I driving fast again, now I like country music. So it was a phase. I went through a few phases. Partially based on weird incidents like that, partially based on, whatever else, where I found different genres to be, more in my liking given times or others, R&B and other things but always came back to my good old rock and roll. But country is, I still struggle to listen to country music. When Beyonce's new song came out, I'm really excited about it. My wife's like, "Oh, look at this." I was like, it's a country song. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. I can't get into it. So not really, but there was a
Yeah.
time, Dave. There was a time.
Yeah, I mean I can still appreciate it. I'll go back and I'll listen to some of those things. Like the Mavericks were a great band. They were like a big one album wonder, but their one album was so good. I mean, now I know they had other albums too, but their one album was really so good. And on long road trips, I'll pull in some of that stuff and I'll listen again. I don't listen as much as I used to. Um, but I can definitely appreciate the country music for what it is. I probably don't. I like those old Alan Jackson, George Strait, Drowning in My Beer type of things. I mean, George Strait had so many classic songs. I mean, I don't know, you probably don't remember this, but it was a big deal for me at the time. George Strait did that. uh, he did a movie, he where he played a country music star who went back to his roots, and he had a soundtrack there that I still love. It was just great. It was completely cheesy. It was one of those classic late '80s, early '90s movies, but there's always that perceived conflict between Garth Brooks, who was like the entertainer, like the showboater. His concerts were big, extravagant, especially in the late '80s, early '90s time frame. And then you had George Strait, who would just get up there and string his guitar, the steel guitar, all that, the band, yeah, all that great country music stuff. And there was like this divide between them, the two. And I think George Strait wound up, I mean, I think probably the more successful one, just because um, he was always selling out concerts. He lasted such a long time. I think he's officially retired, but he's still playing. I think they had a thing where he was in Dallas last a couple weeks ago, and he was playing to a packed crowd. Just classic twangy George Strait. So yeah, that's my country music experience. I don't listen as much as I used to, but again, I don't listen to much um outside of podcasts for a lot of things either. So good stuff.
Yeah, I think George Strait was the traditional country guy, and Garth really started sort of the country pop,
Yeah.
that we have today, which is great for the industry. I mean, it's just blown up since. I think he largely contributed to that. Billy Ray Cyrus had, a couple hits that really contributed to that, I think. But 1993's This Time by Dwight Yoakam, I had that CD on repeat for quite a long time. Still enjoy it. A lot of really great songs on that album. There's some country I can tolerate, but yeah, I'll share
Yeah.
another story about my speeding habits another day, Dave, and the lovely Fairfax County Police, but not today. We've got other topics to get into today.
All right, so we got to go back to we're going to stop on our timer. I got to go on video. My connection's been a little weird, but in order to show the video or the timer, Andy, we got to do that. So if I get too technical or too roboty, just let me know and I'll go back off video. All
All right.
right, Andy, let's go to the next one. Your favorite topic, Andy, when it comes to automotives, is Tesla, the Cybertruck.
Yeah,
I posted a picture over the weekend, Andy. I saw one in the wild. This was the first time I ever saw it, and yes, it is as stupid as it looks.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
terrible.
it's completely out of place with everything else. I don't even know what time period this would be considered in place.
Yeah,
Like we've talked about the Tesla cars a lot, and look, I don't mind them. I mean, but they at least have a car shape to them, right? There's at least a car format to them. They have the bigger one that's a little bit more of an SUV. It looks like an SUV. You may not, I know you don't like the style, but the Tesla truck is fucking ridiculous. And in real life, it is fucking ridiculous. But I saw one in the wild, so I thought I'd shoot you that picture, and I think you said you wanted to take a dump on it. So I think that was pretty good. But Andy, this is the fourth recall now. There was a recall notice for Tesla, the Cybertruck. Fourth recall notice. It doesn't matter what the recall is in. Is this going to be ever successful, Andy? Can you imagine a world where this is going to be the top, like a top selling thing? Because
yeah.
there's also another report, Andy, that a lot of people are dumping their EVs and going back to gas. vehicles, and I think a lot of it is due to the infrastructure, even though it is getting better. So, what thoughts there, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, on the EV transition, I mean, it's a complex challenge, right? It's a chicken and egg problem largely, right? You've got the EVs out, people want to drive them. The infrastructure isn't fully there yet. The technology still isn't quite there, where it could be yet. There's still range fear for a lot of people, and so it's just kind of a back and forth in this transition. They've got states like California who are mandating transitions. That's going to be a problem, right? But everything California does is a problem. The market will work its way through this. To be honest, I think the administration, trying to sort of build some of the infrastructure is pretty critical to making that transition effective. But you're right. I mean, when I was purchasing a car, I would have liked to have bought an EV or a hybrid. I didn't feel like it was the right time yet. I think it's still a few years off. I think we'll probably get towards that transition, at some point here, but not today. But when that transition occurs, um, the Cybertruck will not be the standard vehicle. The Cybertruck reminds me of like the Hummers, right? When the Hummer came into the
Oh,
U.S., the first model was pretty popular. Then they got like insanely big, really expensive. People would still buy them. Arnold Schwarzenegger loves his Hummer. But most people didn't want this monstrosity of a gas guzzling vehicle. It was really expensive, and so those who would buy it were really just buying it to say, "Hey, I own a Hummer and fuck you," right? They're kind of showing you that they could have it and driving around. Um, and I think the Cybertruck's the same thing. Most people aren't going to buy it. It's ugly and it's not efficient. It's not great. It's not impressive. It's on its fourth recall. It's just come out. Still, all some of the features still resulting in accidents and dangers. It's not awesome, but you get looks at if you're driving it, right? People look at you and check it out. If that's what you want and you've got the money to burn and you want to show people that, hey, I don't care what you think, I own this, it's mine. Like go for it, I guess. Like
yeah.
you said in response to your post, which was great, seeing a Tesla, Cybertruck in the wild. It's like seeing a Pokemon in the wild. You got to see it. I look at it and I think, I mean, it wasn't like a conscious thought. I just saw it and I was like, that I just want to squat on top of that car and defecate on the hood of that vehicle. And it was just reaction. I didn't control it. It just came over me. And I think others were commenting or liking it, saying, like the same feeling. So it's the Cybertruck is what it is. I think it's gross. I will say, Dave, though, some have taken to vandalism, right? I think we shared,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And like that's obviously wrong, right? You can hate the vehicle, don't buy it. Certainly, nobody should be out there keying vehicles, spray painting vehicles, or regardless what you think of Tesla, the Cybertruck, Elon Musk, whatever. Like obviously, that's crossing the line. Pooping you can wash off, so maybe that's not so bad, right? So I'm not encouraging anybody to go and poop on a Tesla, Cybertruck, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it'll rain off.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair enough, Andy. I think that's fair. I love the people who are so insistent on making the Tesla truck like, no, it's a real truck. Look at all this space you can load things up on. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So it's kind of like, do you remember there's that Aztec truck a couple years ago where it was a just a different style of truck. It wasn't your cab and then your bed or the truck part, the bed of the truck. It was like a merging of the cab with the bed, and it just looks stupid. And I know there are people who are like, no, this is a great truck. Look at the utility here and all this other stuff. But some things you just don't mess with. I mean,
Yeah.
the Ford F-150s and the Rams, they're classics because they're like they keep doing what they do and they don't need to do anything revolutionary or bold. And this Tesla truck, they could have done so many different things with it, Andy, and instead it looks awful. So I don't think we need to talk about that
Just,
much more. But
just bring back the El Camino, Dave.
oh, is
Like
it a
if
car?
we're
Is
gonna,
it a truck? What is it?
yeah, I mean, like the Aztec was stupid looking, the Cybertruck's stupid looking. If you want a weird looking vehicle, like at least let it be usefully functional. Bring back the El Camino. Also, the name of one of the Black Keys' greatest albums, worth noting. It's a fantastic album by a fantastic band, two of Ohio's greatest treasures, right there in the Black Keys. But let's bring back the El Camino. Let's do something bold.
Okay, let's do something bold here. Andy, I'm gonna pause the timer here. I'm gonna stop the timer. I'm gonna start on the next one. Andy, I don't want to do it, but we have to do it.
Oh
Uh,
man.
political debate, the first debate, Trump and Biden, is tomorrow. I don't know if there's anything more unanticipated in the world, but we have to have these things. This is again outside of the Presidential Debate Commission. This is being done by CNN. It's going to be widely broadcast, or other networks can pick it up, but they have to have the CNN logo. It has to be CNN presents the debate, all this other
Yeah.
branding type of stuff on there. No audience, which I think favors Biden because Trump plays that. He feeds off of that. And then they shut off the mics again, which I think favors Biden. And it's in June, Andy, versus September timeframe. I think all of these things favor Biden. I'm not really sure why Trump agreed to do these things. But again, being able to shut off the mics allows Trump not being able to talk over Biden and all that other stuff. And again, any debate performance in June, who gives like, well, one, or do debates even matter, Andy?
Well, if somebody's a catastrophic failure, I think it matters,
Yeah,
right? So, um, I'll say the first catastrophic failure to me is perhaps the exclusion of RFK Jr. Not because he's so great, but awfully close to the criteria that I identified. And I think America deserves to be able to hear other voices, regardless of who they are, if they're sort of in the mix. But at the same time, he's not where he needs to be to meet the criteria. So fair enough, fair is. But Trump and Biden, you're right. A June debate, their supporters are both going to love what they hear, and they're both going to blame CNN and the host what they don't like. They're both going to say the other one was a failure. I don't know it's going to change a lot of opinion, but I think it could change some, to be
yeah,
honest. If one of them comes out there, I mean, look, they can both struggle at times. They can both be very animated at times, right? I mean, Joe Biden still has fire in him. He can still, let out some of those, shut up man lines, his malarkey lines. He's a smart guy and a good debater. Trump is full of energy and piss and vinegar, and he can attack, right? He can attack well. So, there was a debate, if you recall, with Hillary Clinton, where he kept on inhaling in this really weird manner that was driving me nuts. Like, oh, I wanted to smack him because every like 10 seconds, this really strange sound coming out of his body. Neither here nor there. But I think if one of them really stumbles, right, which I don't expect, that could make a difference. Like people might pause and be like most of us haven't really seen these two guys talk. Like we see clips, we see articles. We haven't really stopped and listened to them for the most part for America. So this is America's first chance to really look at this pathetic option and say, can one of these men be president again for another 4 years and guide our country into the future? I don't love debates. I haven't watched all of them the last few cycles. I'll probably watch this one because I feel like I really need to listen to see like what are they actually saying. Can I in any way actually cast a vote for one of them? I said while you were out that I don't know who I'm voting for. I'm not voting for Donald Trump, but I'll give them a fair listen. I'll give just out of the fact that one of them is probably going to be president. I'll give them both a fair listen. I don't think I can watch the whole thing. I'll probably get nauseous, but I'll try. I'll try.
yeah. I think I'll probably try myself. Just I want to be able to see how they handle it. This is as neutral of a field or as a setting as you're going to
Yeah,
get.
yeah,
No crowd is shutting off the mics. That's a true debate, right? I mean, it should be. The question is going to be how are both of these candidates able to respond on the fly in a unscripted situation. Biden has not been doesn't do very many press conferences for a lot of different reasons. That you can speculate what you want to say on there, but it is very simple. I mean, they like to have a lot of that stuff scripted because he wants to stay on point because he can go off point so much. Same thing with Trump. I mean,
yeah,
when Trump's prompter breaks down, you get those rambling ass stories
yeah.
about nonsense. And so how are they going to be able to respond on this where Trump can't play to the crowd and he can't feed off and he can't just try his tactics of it, interrupting and calling out Joe names and such. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I'll probably watch for a little bit, but then I'll quickly turn. And probably just watch the clips and some of the analysis of it. I just don't know at this point if anything's really going to change my mind. I unfortunately, as much as I'd love to have another candidate, come in there, we're stuck where we're at here, and I know I'm not going to vote for Trump, but the question is, do I vote that for Biden either? So that's the question. So all right, Andy, any other politics stuff? I mean, that's the big moment.
Yeah, I mean, I know, no, because I don't want to talk about it anymore, to be honest. I'll just say, like, so before, like, yeah, everybody's got a different take on presidential elections, right? Some people will feel obligated to vote for one or the other of the two main candidates. Some will just say, screw it, I'm not going to vote at all. Some will consider, third parties and the argument of, spoiling the election, wasting the vote, which is nonsense. I would just encourage folks to like consider all your options and vote for the candidate that you like best, regardless of whether she or he will win. Like vote what you think is the best answer. And I personally believe everybody should vote. I think as Americans, I think we have a duty to vote. I think it's part of the civic process. And I think unless you're unable, you have a responsibility to do that. If you can do it in person, great. If you do it by mail, fine. But we should do it, and we should do it honestly. I long for the day when we see ranked choice voting in our presidential election and all elections. I think it will be such an incredible game changer. I think right now today, if ranked choice voting was in place, we would have somebody elected that was not Donald Trump or Joe Biden. But there's continue to be a fight to get there. We're not there today, but the more we vote our honest intentions and hearts, I think the more we'll see a viable push to achieve ranked choice voting. So I just encourage everybody, listen to the debate with an open mind, check out the candidates with an open mind, and vote for whoever you think is the best candidate, and may she or he be well represented by those that support them. Um, I think that's important. So I'll stop there, Dave.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's fair. And ranked choice voting, Andy, is gaining some traction. It's going to be used in a couple different elections and primaries and such. So I think it's coming. I think we again we have to embrace change on some of that front. Andy, let's wrap up real quick on some sports viewing habits, real quick. I teased this last time. The Stanley Cup final was Monday night. Edmonton did not successfully come back from a 3-0 deficit. It's so hard to do. I watched the last quarter of this, I'm sorry, the last period,
Yeah.
the third period of this game. It was pretty exciting. Edmonton wasn't able to come back and they lost 2-1. Florida's first Stanley Cup. Did you watch any of the game?
I didn't. I didn't. I just was watching like what happened. It was exciting.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like the third period was the only period I watched of all 7 games. Similar to like the basketball NBA finals. I got my updates from the clips online. I mean, like I would go on the socials, there'll be somebody posting about something and look at this play that such and such just made. Connor McDavid did this, Jalen Brown did that. You know, I get most of my stuff from that as opposed to watching end to end. It's kind of like that red zone effect. I rarely watch a football game end to end anymore, unless it's my favorite team. We know where I stand on the Cowboys or Penn State, but everything else, I'm just like flipping around and maybe I'll see something through the socials, but I don't I'm not watching a whole lot, and I don't think many people are watching that. I think a lot of people are getting YouTube clips and social media clips, but it's an interesting fact. Are you going to watch the NBA draft tonight, Andy?
No,
Yeah.
I don't really care. We'll see. What is Bronny going to get drafted? Is LeBron's son going to be on a team? I don't pay enough attention to the NBA to really care. I'll passively monitor it to see what's going on and pay attention to playoff time. But Dave, I'm an NFL guy. My heart is true.
Yeah, I think this is good. I'm not going to watch any of it either. I think the NBA draft is one of the most uninteresting things in the world. I mean, I may know 2 or 3 players and then the rest of it because I think college basketball has fallen so much, I think
Yeah.
in some of that. But all right, Andy. I think we'll wrap things up for this one. I do want to talk about the Acolyte on Friday.
All right.
Uh, it was a great episode 5 last night. And so, but I want to talk about that. And are you watching House of the Dragon?
So we were about to start and we didn't. So I'm way behind, Dave, and I'm curious what you have to share about the Acolyte. I've seen some of the hate online, not knowing the context of it all. Last thing I saw was people freaking out about lesbian witches creating the Force, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? So I don't know what's happening. Curious to hear your takes on the Acolyte Friday.
Yeah, that'll be a segment we do on Friday. So
Okay.
let's do that. And then we can I'll give you some time to catch up on House of the Dragon. So
All right.
I got my takes on that one as well. So all right, all right, Andy, with that, I'll catch up with you next time.